Yeah, it is another episode of the Auto Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. No more countdown. We are balls deep in the season. Nah, we're just kind of like just the tips in. I don't say that far. We're 1 week in. Broadcasting live from the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm in Vegas. The UFC is doing the Sphere on Saturday, UFC 306. This is obviously a Raiders podcast, but just real quick, Soto. This Sphere is a beast.
Oh, yeah?
Like this show, it's basically Star Tours, but they did it in 6 months, one time for one fight. Like the immersive, like even to Disneyland, you've seen Star Tours. It's just like this immersive experience, but it's like super cinematic in between every single fight. Like this is, so put it this way. Normally there's a production meeting for a UFC event and it's like 30, 40 minutes, right? You do it on Thursday morning or Friday morning. You sit in a room and it's like, all right, we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And then before the fight's on Saturday morning, you rehearse. You rehearse the walkouts, the main event, make sure the graphics are good, lighting's good, audio's good. You rehearse, blah, blah. For the Sphere, on top of this being built for the last 6, 8, 10 months, right? We had the format meeting today on Wednesday, and we're recording this Wednesday night. Wednesday morning, it was a 4.5-hour format meeting. Jeez. We were inside the Sphere, sitting in the 205 section, 100 of us that were working on the show. And they're like, all right, play world A to B. Boom. They show all this shit, and it's like it's a movie. It's like a 90-second movie in between fight like 2 and 3. They're like, all right, so we're going to put this audio up here, and then this video package is going to play there, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, and instead of rehearsing for just like a little bit the morning of, we're rehearsing literally from 6 a.m. Thursday morning to 1 a.m. at night, 6 a.m. Friday morning to 1 a.m. at night, 6 a.m. Saturday morning until a half hour before the doors open for the event. It's
just running through it over and over and over again.
Just we're gonna go through the entire show start to finish Saturday morning, and then do the entire show start to finish for realsy Saturday night. Like it's bonker. Like for anyone who again, all the non-UFC fans are like, just get the Raider stuff real quick. But like, if anyone even kind of cares about MMA, this like everything Dana White said about this, he's underselling what the Sphere is going to be. It's bonkers.
Interesting.
I just hope it translates to on screen. So like you don't. So I mean, like if you're in the venue,
it's gonna be tits.
Set your penises to boner. Like it's gonna be bonkers. I just hope that it's gonna like translate as much as you possibly can when you're like just looking it on your TV at home. Pay-per-view on Saturday. It's gonna be a trip. So when we do the post show live on Sunday, my eyes are bloodshot. It's because I've been looking at this incredible screen for 7 hours that were just like orgying my senses. It's nuts.
You're burning off your retinas.
Just it's like in Family Guy when Milhouse is playing the video game and he's like, what? Like his hair's all pulled back and his eyes are like this. He's like, and I just entered my name, Milho. It's gonna be like that.
Everything's coming up, Milho.
The voice is a little hoarse. The eyes are a little bloodshot. Not stoned, not sick. Just working my ass off, but it's to a good thing.
Earning that dollar.
So the season didn't start out great. Lost to the Chargers at home. We never win at SoFi. You realize we're 0-5 at SoFi? It's always 80% Raider fans, and we just can't buy a win. And if you listen to our post-fight show, we were as disgruntled and disappointed and upset and emotional as you would imagine. And then we had a couple days, calm down a little bit, watch some tape, kiss the wife, hug the kid, realize life ain't so bad. So we thought, there's reasons for optimism. All right, we're 0-1. Didn't go great. We stand by everything we said on Sunday's show, but there's a bright side to the moon. It's not just the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
So here's reasons for optimism.
Okay.
And there are many. There are some genuine reasons for optimism. You want to go first, Soto? Or do you want me to go first?
Okay, I'll shoot the first one out at you.
Fire away.
All right. We were a couple of plays away from blowing the game open in the first half. Mm-hmm. If we would have taken a 17-3 lead or even that. I mean, they wouldn't have scored if we hadn't not got it on fourth down.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have scored. They didn't get a first down after it. They just got a couple yards just to get in the field goal range. But we were a couple of plays away here and there from being up 14-0, maybe even 17-0. Mm-hmm. And if we do that, we force Herbert to pass the ball almost exclusively in the second half. And there is no 40-something yard run. There is no 67-yard run. It's Herbert trying to catch him up. And
Harbaugh would have to un-Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Right.
So the couple of plays, the fourth, not getting it on fourth down, right? That was big. We're trying to go 2 for 1 at the end of the half, and Minshew does that fluky pump fake, trying to catch the ball and pull it back in, backwards pass that ends up being at least a 6-point swing, because we didn't get the 3 that we were probably going to get, and they did get 3. So it's, we were only a few plays away here and there from making it a what it would look like at the time an insurmountable lead because of how poorly the Chargers were doing on offense in the first half.
I would say Christian Wilkins is as advertised. He didn't blow up the stat line. 1 tackle for loss, 5 tackles. But he was all over the place. Here's just a quick look at just one of his plays, just destroying a guard. And he was doing this regularly, blowing up double teams, throwing guards to down.
There was a play where he shot the gap, and there was a counter play, so there was 2 linemen pulling, and he ended up getting pancaked because he got in the way, and neither one of the pulling linemen can get through because he stuffed the first one, and the second one ran into the first one, and nothing was doing after that. He
stuffed a double team and then stopped two pulling guys on that play.
The dude is that good, man. I honestly, it's this is why I have optimism going into this, because I honestly think, even with Kuntz not being there, I think our defensive line is better than the defensive line of the Chiefs, and I think we can do a much better job of containing Lamar Jackson. I don't have any. I mean, I might end up eating my words, but from how he looked last Thursday, I'm not really afraid of Lamar Jackson throwing the ball. He only hit guys that were wide open. He didn't throw guys open. He didn't throw a ball deep and with touch. It was just throwing guys that were already wide open because he was running around and making plays with his legs. So defenses broke down. So I'm not super, scared of Lamar Jackson throwing the ball, honestly. Watch him have 500 yards.
We'll break down the Ravens Raiders on Sunday, but him just being a pocket passer isn't what keeps me up at night, but it's literally everything else.
Everything else.
Everything else. I mean,
him just just even moving the pocket. If you have a rollout, just him doing that, it just it's almost like a chick driving into a roundabout. It just freaking lose all he's out of the pocket. He's out of the pocket. The defense is just that crazy.
Another one. Our next 4 opponents all lost, and 3 of them look terrible. Terrible. So obviously we talked. The Ravens lost a nail biter by a toe, right? By a toenail against the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. So it's okay, Ravens will be a hand. Again, we'll get to the Ravens here in a second. But they did lose. And then it's Panthers, Browns, Broncos. Panthers gave up 47 points to the Saints. Bryce Young was 13 of 30, 161 yards, 2 picks. Miles Sanders had 5 carries for 22 yards. Adam Thielen had 3 receptions for 49 yards. This offense is hot garbage. And if the Saints can put up 47, we should be able to put up 30s, something, whatever. We don't know what our offense is yet, but Panthers looked like dirt.
They look bad, dude. They look, and the thing is they got rid of their number one pass rusher, right? They got rid of Burns, and they didn't really replace him with anyone. I mean, Carr had all day to throw the ball. Like, he was not under pressure. Like, if you give anyone enough time, but if you give a quarterback with the experience that he has enough time, he's going to be able to do something. And he just was back there doing, having a cup of coffee.
Saints ran all over him. Carr only had 200 yards. That's all he needed to do. Ran all over him, threw 3 touchdowns. It's like, defense is terrible. But we knew the Panthers were going to be bad, right? I think not only anyone expected the Panthers to be good this season. The Browns, however, we thought at least they'd have a dominant defense. We thought at least the Browns would be, pick up where they left off last season.
I hate to say I told you so, but I told you guys, just keep an eye on the Browns. Just keep an eye on them this year, because a lot of the stuff that I looked at, it almost similar to what I looked at as far as us. As far as, it's very difficult to win games. We were winning games. The Browns were only winning, honestly, because even their teams, they were still in shootouts. They weren't blowing teams out. As good as their defense was, they weren't blowing teams out. They were in a lot of close games. And it was Flacco. It was all Flacco. And he's not there anymore. And their defense is still very good, but in today's NFL, having a great defense is hit or miss. Because even if you have a great defense, guys are still going to score points.
And the Cowboys scored 33. And then Deshaun Watson's the joke of the league right now. 24 of 45, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Pulled in the 4th. His backup did better than he did. Awful, right? And then we got the Broncos in 3 weeks. And they gave up 26 to the Seahawks. For some reason, they made Bo Nix throw the ball 42 times, a rookie in his very first NFL game. Like, hey,
that was not an easy place to play, dude.
Throw the ball 42 times. He had 138 yards and 2 picks. Again, the Ravens are going to be a handful. They're 9.5-point favorites. But after that, should be an easy skid.
This next game is going to be a very telling game, not attitude wise. I think our attitude is still pretty good. I think that AP does a good job of getting the guys up to play. You saw that, how the defense played. I mean, that was one of my things. The defense was dominant except for 2 running plays where guys kind of like tried to play a little bit of hero ball and shot the wrong gap. They had like a 45-yard run and a 67-yard run or something like that. It's like 112 yards of their 150 yards they had in the second half were on 2 running plays. So it wasn't like they were just cramming it down our throats the entire freaking half. Put that into context. But despite how bad our offense looked, guys were still open. And it's up to the offensive line has to step up, and the offensive line has to take some pride in what they do. Because not to say that he was like, the savior of all world or anything, but despite running for his life a lot of the times, I mean, you saw the stats, the pressures and hits and sacks that the line gave up. They all gave up multiple pressures, multiple hits, some of them sacks, some of them just hits. And Minshew still had a good game. He still had a good game despite pretty much having a pretty poor blocking performance by the offensive line, pass and run blocking.
I mean, they only scored 10 points, but Minshew was a top 10 rated quarterback. Number 10. Top 10 rated. Just behind Trevor Lawrence, the guy that we're always kind of comparing him to, right? Almost identical stats. Above Jaden Daniels, outplayed Justin Herbert, right? Like, not that far behind Tua.
Someone was talking about C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson last season. I forgot who was that. I don't know who that guy was. Look at Sam Darnold, dude. Jesus.
Derek Carr, number 2. Thank you, Panthers.
Fucking Baker #1. Good God, Baker was making it rain, Daddy.
I think in fantasy, because I change my defense every week in fantasy. I'm just gonna whoever's playing the Panthers, who's ever playing the Panthers.
God, they're terrible, dude. They're so bad.
That's my defense.
And if you can't get that guy, get the guy playing get the team playing the Giants.
Another thing, AJ Cole is going to be all pro again. Again, as the captain of the AJ Cole fan club, as the driver of the bandwagon, as the chief campaigner for AJ Cole, I will continue to bring him up every single week as he continues to be the best punter in the NFL and putting our defense in a position where the opposing offense has to drive the entire length of the field, putting within the 20, twice within the 10, flipping the field. He's gonna be all pro again. Mark my words.
He was still a huge weapon for us. Huge weapon for us. And you can tell that it was that the Chargers were really they didn't really come after Cole either. They were like, we need to get a return. Like we need to get returns in here. We need to get more guys back to get good returns on here because this guy's killing us. He's pinning us back and he's freaking murdering us back there because the way that Harbaugh likes to play is, you know, the ball control running offense. And like we had talked about a bunch of times, and I said a few weeks ago, you know, those 3 yards in a cloud of dust, it's hard to go 80, 85, 90 yards every single drive playing that way. And that's the way that Harbaugh wants to play. So, yeah, he's going to be a big weapon this next week against the Baltimore. The thing is, Baltimore normally has excellent special teams. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. He takes pride in how well his team plays special teams. We need to do a really good job and step up covering these return guys. Because if AJ Cole just boots it out there and give the return guys some space from Baltimore, they're going to be able to get some returns on us.
We can't lose to back-to-back Harbaughs. Unacceptable. Another thing, let's say Minshew doesn't work out. Favre's right there and ready. It's not like there's that one's drastically better than the other. We're like basically the only franchise in the NFL where it's like both of our top quarterbacks are, you know, some of us think it's this, some of us think it's that, you know, some of us think it's this. But if he's not working out, we got a guy right there that can pick up right where things let off. And even though I don't think Minshew is like the problem at all, sometimes there's sparks, right? Sometimes it's a spark. Just, hey, new face, new look. Let's try something different. Some guys do that. One of our quick story, one of our audio guys, when we were in Abu Dhabi, there's a squash court in our hotel. And there's not a lot to do out there. So we just played squash all the time. This dude, his name's Miles, whooped my ass in squash. Beat me like 4 games in a row, right? So I'm like, fuck, I got to try something. I'm like, hey, let's bet this next game. He's like, dude, I just kicked your ass 4 times. Like, I know, I just got to change things up. $100. Spent $100 on this game. He's like, okay, deal. I beat him by like 5 because it's just change it up. Change things. Get different mentality.
You suckered him in. You pulled a freaking color of money on him.
Everyone's saying I hustled the shit out of him. I wish I could say that. I don't know what's cooler, that if I would have hustled him or if I would have just known that, like, look,
definitely hustling him. It's cooler.
It's like, let me just change the format. Let me inject a foreign element into something that's not working and see if it works. Now, again, it could implode. It can go the other way, right? I could have been like, the pressure could have gotten to me, or he could have like stepped his game up because it's money. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, what I was doing wasn't working. Like, I had nothing to lose. I'm going to lose 5 in a row. Like, okay, let's inject something different. And Favre can be that guy, potentially, if need be.
Along those same lines of injecting some spark, Alexander Mattison looks to be a lot bigger weapon than we anticipated. He
really on Saturday.
I mean, AP said that he's going to play the hot hand at running back. Mm-hmm. So whoever's getting the job done. And I feel bad for Zeus, not for the fumble, but he didn't really have much to work with. Yeah. There was guys like, it's almost like Christian Wilkins was playing for their team too. Mm-hmm. There was always somebody in the backfield. Our guards, our interior linemen specifically, were just getting manhandled. It was bad. It was really bad how poorly they were using leverage and how they were getting. I mean, at best they were getting 50-50. They were getting like stalemates at best, and it's really difficult to get anything going as a running back if you're going straight into the back of your lineman.
So that's a big dose of optimism. You gotta be thankful, right? Always content, never satisfied, happy with what you have while always craving more. And this is our level of contentment. We had to even out Sunday's show because we were all pretty pissed. And I'm again, we stand by everything we said about the Raiders on Sunday. It wasn't a good showing, and
I wasn't all doom and gloom to my defense. I did say it was week 1, and week 1 is a lie. Okay, shitty teams are going to play great. Great teams are going to play shitty. It's just the first game. Now, okay, snap back to reality. All right, guys, this is fucking it. Okay, let's get out there and show them what we can do, and it's going to say a lot offensively. It's going to say a lot. I think our defense was ready to rock. Obviously, offensively, we got to show a little bit more life, a little bit more pop.
A lot more pop would be nice. Would be very, very nice. All right, a couple news and notes before we break down Sunday's game. Not great news for someone who hasn't really had a whole bunch of great news these days. Tyree Wilson rolled out Sunday with an injury, suffered a knee sprain. Injury is not believed to be long-term, as the knee is structurally sound. So that's good news that it's not, IR or anything like that. But for a guy who's very, very slowly developing, this is exactly opposite of what a guy in his position needs right now.
It's bad, dude. It's bad. It's not just the physical, right? It's not just the physical. Most of it, honestly, is going to be mental for him because he has the physical tools. It's about putting all that stuff together and having the confidence to execute what you want to do. If you're not getting the reps, if you're not building that confidence early in the season, this could be another lost season by Tyree Wilson. And it's injuries that's derailing him. Last season, it was an injury. He wasn't really supposed to, I forgot who said it, but he wasn't really supposed, I think it was Bob. He really wasn't supposed, no, I don't remember who it was. I'm not going to say who it was. But he wasn't supposed to play a lot. It was Chandler Jones was supposed to be the starter, but then Chandler Jones, went full crazy.
Was jonesing for it.
And he forced him into action before he was ready, and he did not play well at all.
And again, it was you got to stop playing catch up, right? Like he got one free season a little bit. It's like, all right, we know what we got. We drafted him to be a project, and he was hurt. We knew that, right? It wasn't like he was hiding it from anybody. We drafted him knowing it was a project. But now, if you're 7th overall and it's your second season, we need results. Like now it's like, show me something. And he got hurt like 45 seconds into the game. Like it was like first defensive series, something like that. And it's just like,
yeah, like a third play or something like that.
Something like that. Aaron Rodgers lasted longer last season than Tyree Wilson did.
It's just unfortunate because he is not going to have the opportunity to build any momentum going late into the season when the games are going to mean a lot more and when hopefully we're cranking and everything's coming together and like the best teams start to, after the first 3 or 4 games to kind of figure it out and they start to, start trending upwards. He's going to be left back. And it's like getting sick, right? You're sick in school and you get sick and you're gone for like a week and you come back and everyone else is like, it's like a way far ahead of you. You're like, well, what the hell happened? And that's where it's going to be for him, unfortunately.
Especially with Malcolm Kuntz on IR, this was his chance to like, all right, I'll get some starting
really
reps.
Show what he can do, man. It sucks.
It's like, hey, Kuntz earned it, rightfully so, but let me prove to you that I'm the guy, and then he gets hurt. So now we're.
It's just
defensive end.
Some of these guys, that hang around and have maybe a couple of years late in their career that are, pretty successful. This happens to them early in their career, and they just bounce around. because they just, they can't stay healthy, or people see him as a bust, or there's a regime change and they don't believe in him. Because look, AP didn't draft him. Telesco didn't draft him.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have really a big tie to him. I'm sure they want him to do well because he's a first round pick and he's getting paid a lot of money. But this is a big blow to his development, not just because he's not out there, but Snowden came in and played pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Robinson came in, looked pretty good.
Okay.
It's like you got these guys who are younger, who are cheaper. Let's flip Wilson for a 5th round pick. Get out of that contract and get something back for him. It's like, I got 2 guys here that are playing exponentially better than him.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to keep him on my team? Even if he does figure it out, where is that ceiling? Where is that figure out going to get him to? And that's the hard part for him, having this opportunity, next man up style, where Kuntz gets hurt, fluke injury. Like, they weren't even wearing pads, I don't think. Hurts his knee, he's probably going to be gone for the year, dude. I don't know if he's going to be able to ready to come back after the 4 games. And that's going to be a big opportunity for Wilson to come in and show, some improvement and learn on the fly with a little bit of leeway, because they are thin at the position.
Well, another guy that's always been talked about moving around is Davante Adams. And after going 0-1 in a quiet game for him, I think conversation is not going to stop by any means. But someone's thrown a bunch of cold water on the idea that Davante might get traded. Yahoo and Fox Sports Radio's Jason Fitz was on Raider Nation. Fitzy. Morning Tailgate. And he said, even if this season goes off the rails, I cannot say this loud enough. I think even if the Raiders win 3 games, Davante Adams is going to be a Raider in Week 18. I believe that. So not that he would maybe not get traded when the season's over, but no trade in season. Which, I mean, if he makes it to Week 9, second week of November, whenever the trade deadline's over, like, he's going to make it the rest of the way, but goes without saying. I appreciate his flair for the dramatic, right? Same to the very end of the season. I don't believe that the Raiders would get anything in trade value that would make it worth getting rid of somebody that means as much to the organization as he does. I think Davante also knows that. So the level of patience changes when you know that, hey, this is the way life's going to be this year. So do you think the Raiders no one will offer enough for Davante Adams to make it worth moving on from him?
There's too many unknowns to say that with any type of certainty, because if we've seen, we talked about this already, if a player goes down and other guys have to step up, like Josh Palmer was a pretty, he was a decent 2, really good number 3 receiver. As a number 1, not good, right? And we knew that. So if you make Jacoby Myers the focal point of an offense, passing wise, and then you have Bowers, and you're moving everyone else up a notch. So now they're being covered by the better guy, a little bit better, not the slot guy or the number 2, not the number 2, the number 1 corner, right? So if someone gets hurt, I could see somebody trading for him. But I mean, let's all just put it in context too. Jason Fitz is a huge Raider fan. So that may shade his opinion a little bit. Ultimately, I don't see them, if they're like 3-6, when I think they pull the trigger.
Well, and this is the thing I think I've talked about. I think I said the exact same thing last week, but it bears repeating. For a player as good as Davante Adams, as good as a team player as Davante Adams, as embedded into the culture in the city, and everyone loves Davante Adams, as good as he is, for him to go somewhere else is going to take a big deal. Guys like that don't go somewhere else if it's not for a really, really, usually multiple good reasons. Like Stephon Diggs keeps jumping around because his contract's ending and he gets a pain in the locker room and he no longer gets targets, and then you move on. Like, you see it coming, you know? For Davante Adams to leave, certainly it's possible. We go 2-6, and you know, we're thinking about next season, and he's like, hey, you know, like, Jets really want me. They're 6-3, and they just had their number one receiver go down. It's like, make it worth my while. And again, all these things need to happen in a row, and then Davante goes. It's not we're bad, he's gone. It's nothing like that at all. It takes multiple correct things, or in our case, wrong things, to happen in the right order to lose someone like Davante. And one of those things,
ultimately, you have to have the Raiders be in a position to be sellers. And the team that's a buyer has to understand that they're getting a sharply diminishing product. He is a few years past, I think, 32 now or 31?
He's 31 now.
So 31 now, and he's not going to go anywhere and just flounder afterwards. Oh, we're going to release him and, you know, whatever. No, he's going to want to have a contract wherever he goes. So you're taking on a huge contract of a wide receiver who's 31 years old. Mm-hmm. And who's not going to mean as much to that franchise outside of football as he means to his current one. And you're just taking on a big, huge paycheck on a guy who, you know, historically, wide receivers at that age haven't been at their best. So which Davante are you getting? We know that he's still the man, but it's a dicey proposition for the new team, because every year he plays, he's a year older than he was the year before, and theoretically a year worse than he was the year before. So to have his paycheck keep going up basically the last 2 years of the contract that he has, they're going to have to redo a deal. So you're going to have to commit to a guy who's already 31. So all that stuff has to fall into place. You have to have a team that's, I wouldn't necessarily say desperate enough, but definitely in the market enough to not only want to trade enough assets to get this player, but also make him happy for a few years, money-wise, which, I mean, it's a tall ask.
They got to be like a winish now team. They need to be short on wide receiver. They got to have cash to be able to pay Davante. They got to be willing to give us what we think is deserving of it. And the Raiders need to be in a position where it's like, okay, we're happy to get rid of them, or, you know, we're willing to get rid of them because the exact right circumstances are happening. All right. Even if we're not good, you tell me Telesco and AP are like, we want to draft a rookie wide receiver next season. We need Davante to help bring this guy along. Even if everything's awful, let's assume worst case scenario where everyone's thinking Davante's going to get traded. Who's to say Telesco and AP are like, no, we need to, we'll redo. We have the cap space. It'll be a rookie quarterback that we're paying pennies. We need to commit Davante to help bring our quarterback along. That's also a very real possibility. So even if everything goes in line, even then he might not be gone. So again, he could still be gone. I'm just saying it's nowhere near as simple as, we didn't have the season we wanted. We're going to trade him because someone's going to give us a first. Like, it's not at all that simple.
A lot of things got to fall into place.
All right, so we are headed to Baltimore on Sunday. I'm gonna watch reruns of The Wire all week, getting ready. Such a good show.
Shit.
I'd say it's the best written show in TV history. Not the best show, but best written show. Every season was like its own kind of thing. All the characters were super believable. It was one of the first shows where it's like there was no good guy or bad guy. Like, everyone was like, even the worst drug dealers like gave to charity. Even the best cops still like faked evidence and did shit. It's like, yeah, these are like believable, awesome characters.
You know why that was, right?
Because the guy who wrote it did ride-alongs in Baltimore in the 80s.
Well, also the reason why it was each season was so different was because HBO was still fairly new at putting out their own content as far as like their own shows, and they never got like a 2-year renewal. It's like every year they were like, all right, it's over. Let's see what happens next year. We'll call you, and then they get picked up for another year, one more year. So they had to like hurry up and get something together.
You're like a 32-year-old receiver in the NFL, just 1-year contracts.
Yeah. So that's basically what happened. But I mean, it ended up working out because I mean, the cast was just so damn talented. Number one, but the writer actually had the foresight to be able to. You don't have to have a long story within a bunch of shorter stories. When you change perspectives, you could just change the stories.
Well, and the whole thing was the whole thing was each season with its own theme, right? Like it was the drug trade, and then it was the unions, and then it was politics, and it's
politicians,
and it's its own story, but all the characters flowed seamlessly.
And that's the beauty of it is you don't have to have a long arcing story to do it this way. You just have to have the same characters and just write a whole new story.
Such a good show. So goddamn
great show. If you haven't seen The Wire, what is wrong with you? Number one. Number two, go watch The Wire. So good.
All right. And it's set in Baltimore, if you're wondering why the fuck we're talking about The Wire for the last 5 minutes. Raiders at Ravens, 10 a.m. game. 9.5-point favorites is Baltimore. The Raiders are the biggest underdogs in week 2. Not the Giants, not the Panthers. The Raiders are the biggest.
What's going on here in week 2?
Minus 9.5.
Let's see what how big of a freaking snub that is.
The next closest favorite are the Lions. The Lions are minus 7.
The Bucks, right?
Yeah. Which part of it's like, all right, the Ravens got a long week because they were Thursday night football to open. They are
Miami and Buffalo. That's going to be a tight one.
The Raiders
Carolina and Chargers, a couple of boo-boos.
Yeah.
New Orleans and Dallas, they both scored a lot of points. Okay. Indy and Green Bay. Well, I mean, Green Bay's got Malik Willis throwing out there. That might be a rough one for them. Mm-hmm. Cleveland and Jacksonville, neither one of those guys look great. San Francisco and Minnesota. Okay. Seattle and New England, that might be a freaking rough one for New England. The Jets and Tennessee, that might be a rough one for Tennessee. Washington and the Giants. Washington put up a good amount of points last week.
9.5-point favorites in week 2.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
That's an insult. That's a slap in the
Cincinnati
face.
At KC, the way they looked last week. Again, it's week 1, but then you have Atlanta going to Philly. Atlanta looked like freaking crap too.
I think KC's minus 6.5 in that one.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's.
But 9.5, that's insulting, bro. That's insulting.
Traveling across the country,
they have a long
week. They're pissed off. Hopefully AP has that line on the practice field. Just like, yeah, they think this team, this other NFL team, they have 53 players, just like us. They practice just like us. They think they're 10 points better than us. The bookies in Vegas.
That's rough, dude. That is super rough. I can understand why they're the favorites. Of course, they're an excellent team. They're at home. The Raiders are like 1-7 their last 8 East Coast games or something like that. Something weird like that. It's an early start. I get it, but 9.5. That's a lot. That's a lot of points in the NFL.
It's uncanny. Injury report. Baltimore's pretty healthy. Kyle Van Noy had that like gruesome kind of like, I feel bad for him. That eye injury from week 1 is like kind of scary a little bit. He didn't practice. Other than that, they should be fine. Tyree Wilson, Cameron Richardson didn't practice. Jackson Powers Johnson, they're still bringing him along slowly. Colt Miller now has a knee injury. Andre James has an elbow injury. These are new as far as I know. Miller, it was the shoulder surgery, which is what kept him so long. Now there's a knee. Andre James now has an elbow issue. I don't know if that was aggravated during the game or happened during the game. Is that why he played like dog shit?
God, he played so bad.
Chargers? I don't know. So, well, again, this is Wednesday's injury report. So we'll see how that changes throughout the week. And then it's on to, obviously the biggest thing with the Ravens is former NFL MVP Lamar Jackson.
2-time MVP Lamar Jackson.
2-time. He looked like his regular self. 273 yards passing, no interceptions, and the scariest part, 122 yards rushing. I mean, like I said, if you just contain him as a pocket passer, he's not bad, but it's something you can handle. It's just literally everything else. Is he scrambling for time? Is he running an option? Is he running for his life? Is it a designed run? He's a handful, baby. Spillane's going to have his hands full.
If you can keep him in the pocket, he's an average passer at best. Mm-hmm. I'm an average NFL passer. I'm not saying he's an average like for, you and me. But you mix in the fact that he's just
I'd say he's slightly better than you and me. No,
I can rip that 5 yard out.
I don't want to give him too much credit.
5 yards is about as good as this arm's gonna go. Anyway, too many Kimuras and arm locks over at Ghazi, dude. His shoulder's shot. But if you can keep him contained, if he starts using his legs, there's nobody better, dude. Honestly, if he can start moving around, like he's Josh Allen, he's just like that, and he can hurt you in a bunch of different ways because he's just that elusive and that fast. He's not as elusive, I don't think, as Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. So if you get pressure on him, you can be able to bring him down because Mahomes moves to just not get sacked. When Lamar moves, he moves to run the ball. It's a different mindset. And I think Mahomes is a kind of a sneaky quick, short area quickness, where Lamar is quick, but he's just blazing fast as well. We've done pretty good jobs recently. The last time we played him, he didn't have an especially great game. We were able to bottle him up, and that was with Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue, I think it was. And nobody really to speak of. Was that?
Revenge game for Yannick.
Yeah, and it was nobody to really to speak of in the defensive tackle. We got Wilkins now, and if he can get some pressure up the middle, that's what really bothers quarterbacks. Hopefully, he can flush him out to our edge rushers coming around the corner there. But if it doesn't matter how well we play offensively, Minshew's not going to be able to keep up with a scrambling, passing Lamar Jackson. Nobody is. He was an MVP for a reason. Minshew is not MVP level. As good as he can be, he's not MVP level. And you got to if he's running around making plays, this game is going to be up to the defense to give us a chance offensively.
Yeah, you have to give Lamar Jackson that like weird pressure where you're not like. It's not such good pressure where he just runs because then that can also hurt you. It has to be like just enough of that contained pressure where he's just kind of scatterbrained a little bit. It's like the pressure that Patrick Mahomes thrives in. Lamar Jackson doesn't really. Like you said, Mahomes likes to just kind of like just edge you. He just like buying time, and I'll throw. Whereas Lamar's like, I'm going from point A to point B, and then I'll either throw it there or run. Right? It's like there's like those 7 steps he takes, he's not going to throw during it. He's just going from here to here, right? So you need him to kind of like – it's the weirdest pressure, right? Like you don't want him to just run.
It's got to be a squeeze. It's got to be a slow squeeze.
Yeah. Anaconda his ass.
Anaconda squeeze. What movie is that from?
Let us know in the comment section.
Get that corn out of my face.
And it's like you said, if you can keep him in the pocket, that's the best possible place for him because he really doesn't have any weapons. Like, not a lot of wide receivers.
Zay Flowers is good. Mark Andrews likely like the deep. He's got some weapons, but they're not. They're more of like scramble weapons. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
If you give him 7 seconds to get open, they will. Right? Our boy Nelson Aguilar's there, not doing shit. They got that new tight end that had a really huge game. I don't know if that's gonna
likely, I
don't know if he's gonna like more than likely be that guy every week, but that's something you got to game plan for.
Tip your waitress, try the veal.
And then Derrick Henry, which I thought was just a match made in heaven. Derrick Henry with this offense, just a bruiser, still got it. He didn't have a crazy game last week, only 13 carries, but I think that's their plan, right? He's just as a guy who's had Derrick Henry on his fantasy like off and on for like 7 years. It's like, gives you 8 great games, and then something breaks because by then he's already got 400 carries.
Well, the issue with Derrick Henry is the second half they were playing from behind, so he wasn't really out there at all, and they were playing a lot of hurry up defense to try to tire the Chiefs out. So they were playing a lot of no huddle. They they caught Chris Jones on a rotation, and they didn't huddle the rest of that drive. They weren't going to let Chris Jones back on the field. So that's one of the reasons why Derrick Henry wasn't in there. But they have to have leads to be able to. Same as the Chargers, like the Harbaughs want to play the same way. I think that John Harbaugh has the more dynamic quarterback, so he can do more if you allow him to. But they want to play the same way. They want to play behind their running game, and we got to be able to jump out quick. We got to be able to jump out quick. We in that environment with how pissed off they are and all the rest that they've had, and the home opener and the returning MVP returning home and all this stuff, we got to jump out to a quick lead. If we don't jump out to a quick lead, it's going to be very difficult for us to stay in the game, let alone win it.
And Derrick Henry is more aerodynamic. He doesn't have that poop coming out of the back of his head quite as much,
Cut that,
like far more. And dude, if J.K. Dobbins can wear us down, if we just let him just run until he breaks, imagine what Derrick Henry's going to do. You know what I mean? Like, if they're playing with the lead and like they eventually tired out our defense with Dobbins, imagine what man-child Derrick Henry can do. You know what I mean?
Brutal.
Can't let that guy go downhill.
Brutal.
One of my matchups I really can't wait to see is Brock Bowers versus Kyle Hamilton. I think they'll put Hamilton on Bowers. I think that'd be a really fun matchup because Hamilton kind of shut down the tight end that will remain nameless last week. Like he kept him, by his standards, pretty bottled up.
3 catches, like 40 yards or something like that.
Something like that, right? Pretty quiet. This is Brock
He looks
Bowers.
like he got a fat neck over the summer. He was partying too much, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He got that like extra face down there. He got that extra face.
Instead of an O face, he has a Mo face.
He got Mo face down there. He got like a
Mo face.
He went and he got an extra jowls put on there for him.
Mm-hmm.
He looking thick.
So yeah, we'll do a post-fight or post. It's such in fight mode right now. Well, we'll do a post-game show right after, as always.
One of the things that is going to help the matchup Bowers and Hamilton is Bowers can line up pretty much anywhere, and to have Hamilton follow him is going to be pretty difficult because it's going to put, unless you want to just put another safety in and play 3 safeties, because it's going to open up things, intermediate and deep. If you're pulling Hamilton out from, playing deeper like he normally does, you're going to have to pick your poison at that point. If I'm of the opinion that for us to win this game, Minshew has to throw the ball deep. He has to be able to throw the ball deep. We can't, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, like I was saying. We have to get big plays out of our passing game. In order to do that, we do need to be able to run the ball. Play action is a big part of that, but we have to get big plays out of our passing attack. Davante Adams needs to be fed over and over and over and over. Brock Bowers needs to be fed over and over when the matchup is really good. We need to find and pick and choose the spots to get Mayer the ball, to get Myers the ball. We have to stretch, elongate the defense with Tucker. Like, we have to have a solid game plan. And even if they fall incomplete, you got to throw the ball. You got to challenge these corners early, because it keeps your wide receivers engaged in the game, and it also knocks down if you're not throwing at a guy, or if you're giving a good easy plays for the corners, they're going to gain confidence as the game goes on, and we got to challenge them early.
I want to see that play action, man. Like, that's one of the reasons why you got the more agile quarterback.
You got to run the ball, man. You got to be able to run it.
2 tight ends. Look, it's I know it's always been the mentality. You have to establish the run before you can play action. That's kind of a fallacy. That's not, like, the metrics don't really, like, I understand the theory, right? Like, it certainly makes perfect sense. But all you need is a linebacker or a safety to hesitate for a split second. That's all you need. Then everything times out perfectly. It's like you're in 21, you're in 12 personnel. Like, it's play. And And if you don't get people respecting the run, it kind of eliminates the point of having 2 tight ends on there, and you get those great matchups, right? Like, oh, they're going to keep running the ball. We need a heavier safety, maybe a third linebacker, and boom, there's the play action, there's the pass, right? Like, you gotta like.
I'll tell you something right now, dude. Yeah. Neither Mack nor Bosa was playing the run. They didn't give a shit about play action. They're like, fuck it. We're just going to pin our ears back, and if he has the ball, great. If he doesn't, we'll pull up late. So they weren't worried about that. And the guys inside were not sustaining blocks. So it was just a L all the way around.
Ready to do some Windbags?
Sure. Razor and I are ready.
I was going to say, haven't heard from your cats for the last 50 minutes. I was kind of worried. Well, yeah, here I am.
What up, Windbags, dude?
Let's
do it.
Turco 7477. Thank you for being a member. Zamir didn't have much blocking to speak of, but his vision is a problem. There was at least 3 or 4 plays where he's just running into people instead of being a bit patient and reading and reacting. Just my opinion. So we talked about Zamir White. Like, there were run blocking wasn't good. We can all agree. There's obviously the switch from a power gap to a zone run scheme, which takes time, and not that Zamir can't do it, but he's kind of built more as like a gap guy. Hit the, there's your hole, hit it, maybe move here and there. That's more or less him. Not that he can't do zone. And I thought that he hit some holes decently. That's what we said about how his performance. Like, he was okay. Like, a lot of things were out of his control. Got a couple yards when we needed to, but there were, like, I think 100%. There was definitely a couple holes where I think a guy with a little bit more vision would have done better, and that's what happens when it made sense not to pay Josh Jacobs $15 million. That was the correct decision, right? We saved that money, we'll put it elsewhere, but this is the result of that. That is the result of that. There will be some runs Zeus will not make that Josh would have.
In Zamir's defense, our interior of offensive line was getting pushed back every single time. It's very difficult to look and be patient for a running lane when you get the handoff and you're immediately staring at the back of one of your interior offensive linemen. It's like, where are you going to go from there? Like, you have to run around this guy just to see where the hole is. And we just need to do better blocking, man. I mean, he was right about the blocking. He didn't have much blocking to speak of. And ultimately, that's the bigger problem than Zamir White's vision, is the bad blocking.
LV Raiders 67. Again, thank you for being a member. Memberships are open. We're accepting them. SoFi is not the Raiders' vacation home. It's the Raiders' house of horrors. That's what we always call it, right? Raiders' vacation home, because it's full of Raider fans. It's basically an Airbnb that we're in. Whenever we want it, it's ours, but we can let you guys use it whenever you choose. The problem is, whenever we show up, the tenants leaving upper deckers, not changing their towels, leaving those skid marks in the toilet.
Oh, dude.
0-5.
Honestly, I don't get it. And I think part of the issue is we play the Chargers probably within the first 3 or 4 games every year. And normally we play at SoFi to start the season. I don't know why that happens, but that's been happening. I've been noticing it's been happening quite a bit. Where we play the Chargers earlier in the season, and it's usually at SoFi first. Ultimately, this last game was inexcusable. There's no excuse for this last game. For as poorly as the Chargers played offensively, if we would have done anything offensively, if we would have not missed that field goal, we would have gotten the 4th down and got at least a field goal. 13-0, 13-3 at halftime would have forced Harbaugh to abandon the run as much as he was doing it, or trying to, and pass it more, because he wasn't getting anything done. I think they had like 2 first downs, 85 yards of offense in the first half. You have to do something drastically different, which is, spread them out and throw the ball to guys who you don't have. So just those little miscues, man. It's just we lost that game more like you were saying, we lost the game more than the Chargers won it.
Last one, Sam Demand. Would you guys rather go 8-9, 9-8, and no playoffs, or 2-15 and get the #1 pick and get our franchise quarterback? Kind of a little early in the season for this hypothetical, guys. how about
Sam? You're the man. You are the man, Sam. But I'm not going to entertain this, dude. I'm not going to entertain this question so early in the year.
I mean, I will. I'll take the bait. Sam Demand, you're a member. I'll take the bait.
All right.
Here's the thing. How are we going to get there? Right? Like, it's one thing to be like, here's this magical hypothetical at the end of the season and say, what do we wish would have happened? Versus, what do we want to happen? NFL teams really don't tank. It is a very rare scenario. And if the tanking does happen, it's normally ownership. It's normally the owner that's like, all right, here's a crappy coach. I'm going to get rid of some contracts. I'm going to save some money, right? Because head coaches are coaching for their future job. GMs are GMing for their future job. Every assistant coordinator, every coordinator is coordinating for their job. Every player is playing for their next job. So guys don't want to tank. It's not a motivation of theirs. It doesn't serve their purposes. It doesn't fit what they want to do within themselves. So for a tank to happen, it's going to have to come from Mark Davis, for one. And two, even if we do have a terrible, awful season, there's no guarantee we're going to get the guy we want. And so to like, I always hear like kind of, and I'm not calling you this, Sam Demand, but I hear like a lot of like non-fans, like a lot of like journalists, a lot of like writers for teams who aren't invested in the team. You know, they don't have to be. They're trying to be objective journalists. They're like, yeah, like, don't you want get your quarterback? It's like, I don't want my Charger buddies to make fun of me all season. I don't want my Bronco buddies to make fun of me all season. I want to feel good on a Sunday. Even if we're 3-8, I'd rather go 4-8 and have my week be better. You know, like I'd rather have really enjoyed my Sunday watching my favorite team play football. Like that matters more. And that's also a tangible right there grab, right? If we go 4-8 or 3-8, or 3-8 or 4-7, is that gonna be a franchise-changing draft pick? Probably not. Maybe like giant random, maybe. But I know for sure my week's a hell of a lot better. I know for sure my Panthers buddy or whatever, send him a shit talking text. All the reasons I want to watch football, like that's for real, like that's for sure. So it's like, yeah, if I can snap my fingers and just artificially insert a scenario where we get the first round pick, like hell yeah, sound me up. But it's just, real life doesn't work that way.
If you're 2-15, multiple things had to go catastrophically wrong. Multiple serious injuries to key players on both sides of the ball. Fire sale, right? Getting rid of a bunch of talent that
locker room imploded.
A lot of things have to go super. And the issue is the only one that we can come back from quickly is injury. Next year, the guys are healthy and they're ready to play. Okay, if it's a locker room thing, that's not going to get fixed with a quarterback. If it's you're trading away all your talent with a fire sale, that's not going to get fixed with the quarterback. So it's not just the same mentality that we have now. Just put a first-round quarterback in there. It's all the things that go into going 2-15 that are going to carry over into the following season. So it's a more nuanced answer than just pick one of these.
There's a reason why the same kind of like 6 to 8 teams are always picking the top 6 to 8 every season. You're like, hey, I got the number 3 pick. I should be set. It's like, well, you're at 4 next season. Obviously didn't do that well, right? Didn't do that great. But again, like, how would the season be different if we got one of those top 3 quarterbacks, right? But how much of our soul would we have had to sell or get like ripped from us to get there? Like, I don't want to be Washington. I don't want to be them. All their problems. I don't want that. I don't want to be the Patriots. Don't give me that shit. I don't want to be the Giants. No. Those places are cesspools. Take your 5th overall. Take your 6th overall. We're building something here.
Trying to, at least.
All right, that's it for us. Anything crazy that happens over this week will go live. And then we will for sure go live Sunday around 1:30 p.m. after the Raiders curb stomp the Baltimore Ravens and destroy everyone's pick'em pool because they're the biggest underdogs. And we're going to ruin a lot of people's survivor pools on Sunday. So suck it. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me.
Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.